Utility company KCP&L has become the most recent poster child for how business has been prodded into making environmental changes. Faced with protests and protracted lawsuits over its plans to build a coal-fired power plant in Platte County, KCP&L agreed to make a sizable new investment in wind power and sharply reduce its overall carbon emissions in the area. The company also agreed to write a six-figure check to support the city's climate change initiatives.
You know, we realize that moving forward, being able to operate profitably and meet the expectations of the communities we serve and the customers we serve in a carbon-constrained world was going to be the key business challenge that we had to grapple with.
Susan Brown, now you do live very close to the plant that KCP&L wants to build, and you were one of those protesters.
There will be less emissions of all the major pollutants out of two plants there because they have the existing IATAM plant. They'll be building the new plant. I'll have less pollution than we did before with just one plant. Plus, the fact that we're now working together, we agreed to work together on legislation in Missouri and Kansas that can affect all the utilities on both sides of the state line. The main problem is they make their money by selling more and more power. Now what we want to do is give them the incentive to sell less, so they can actually make money by selling less power.
Because it does seem to mock the power of words as to what the strategy is, Bill, because you are a business. Somebody has to pick up the bill for that, and presumably that's your customers, isn't it?
What Susan said is right on, and a lot of people don't know that, but the current way in which utilities are regulated really provide a disincentive for investing in energy efficiency. They reward investment in traditional infrastructure like big generating plants. So what we're going to have to do, and what we're going to be working with a lot of groups on over the next few months, is developing legislation that we can introduce in Kansas and Missouri that turn those disincentives into incentives.
I just wanted to point out that it's easy to look at this issue in terms of long-term issues, global warming, glaciers moving, but there's a short-term issue as well, and that's about the air quality in our metropolitan area. Because of things, some be within our control, but mostly beyond our control, that the sun, the atmosphere has done, it looks like the greater Kansas City area will no longer be an attainment area. And it's possible that the federal government could impose sanctions on the community that may deal with our transportation system. It may deal with the dry cleaner that you do business with or the gas station you do business with. Being a non-attainment area means that all of us who live in this community are breathing in air that isn't the quality that we would like to be breathing.
Concerns about air quality has prompted the City of Atlanta to consider a ban on the construction of new drive-through windows. The EPA says for each minute your car idles, it releases into the air 23 grams of carbon dioxide, the main culprit in global warming.
Is that something that Kansas City should be considering?
Idling restrictions are something that we probably are going to see come about in Kansas City, not because of the climate protection plan, but again, getting back to Pete's issue, because of ground level ozone concerns. One of the things that city government can do is synchronize the traffic signals to reduce the idling that happens because of stop and go traffic, and so that's one of the things that we're looking at.
Now, you must have some businesses, though, Mr. Levy, who have drive-through windows, and they're not going to be happy with Kansas City on page 21, phase 2 of the climate protection plan, wanting to impose local no idling ordinances.
Well, drive-through windows account for about 25% of fast food companies' revenue, so I doubt they would be happy to see those windows closed during ozone season. But that's why we are working with the city to look at those potential strategies and see which are the most implementable at the most reasonable price that have the greatest return for that effort. Just because Atlanta did it or somebody else did it doesn't mean it's right for Kansas City.
So you won't be sending a delegation from the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce over to Atlanta anytime soon?
Oh, no, we'd love to go to Atlanta.
Okay, all right.
Atlanta has done wonderful things on transportation.
But not on the environment?
Well, not on drive-through windows, I guess. Right?
All right. If tomorrow Mayor Mark Fankhauser in Kansas City, Missouri, were with the council's approval to pass an ordinance that said no more, idling. We have an idling ordinance, and we'll even ban drive-through windows, under consideration in Atlanta. Mr. Climatologist,
yes.
Dr. Climatologist, what difference would that really make in Kansas City?
There is no silver bullet solution to any of these things. It's not just the idling at the drive-throughs. We need to do several things. One of the things I would strongly recommend, and advocate for is that let's move this issue of an efficient metros transit system forward. Let's get it done. Let's get an efficient way to move people across the city without having to drive. See, I live in Shawnee. There is no way right now that I can get from Shawnee to UMKC, without driving.
But with the utmost respect, you made the choice to live in Shawnee.
Good point, good point. These are very complicated issues, Our public schools are not equally good across the metro area. See, I have kids that need to be educated, So in making a decision of where I live, you have to balance several different things together. So the point is that in city management and city planning, let's make it easier, say, for people to be responsible citizens.
If you live in Shawnee and there's no public transit there, you have a great opportunity to talk to your elected officials in Shawnee and encourage that happen on the Johnson County side of the metropolitan area as well as in Kansas City.